based on Richard Rohr's book, Father Richard Rohr's book, The Naked Now, Learning to See as the Mystics See. And today we're pushing the door open, or allowing the door to open a little bit more. So far we've looked at the paradox of spiritual life. We've looked at what it's like to practice heaven now, particularly in the face of tragedy. We looked at how to shift our perspective, and last week we talked about transformation and how transformed people transform people. And so that's our goal, to learn to see how the mystics see, which is simply just connecting with spirit, having a conscious communion. So we take a giant step this week in that open door of mysticism and look at how spirit shows up, how God shows up in our lives, as Elaine sang about, through conscious communion and also through whatever is happening in the world. Right? Through love and through suffering. That's his chapter, The Open Door. And if you haven't picked up that book yet, just pick it up for that short chapter, Opening the Door, which talks about transforming through love and through suffering. A group of women were studying the book of Malachi, and as they were studying chapter 3, they came across a verse that said, "He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver." And this verse puzzled the women, and they wondered what the statement meant about the character and the nature of God. And one of the women offered to find out about that process of refining silver and get back to the group. So she went away and called up a silversmith and made an appointment to watch him at work. She didn't tell him anything about the reason for her being there, beyond her curiosity about the process of refining silver. And as she watched him, she saw that he held a piece of silver over the fire and let it heat up. And he explained that in refining silver, one needed to hold the silver in the middle of the flame where it was the hottest, so as to burn away all the impurities. And the woman thought in that moment that sometimes it feels as if God is holding us in a hot spot. And she thought again about the verse, "He sits as a refiner and purifier of silver." And so she asked the silversmith if it were true that he had to sit there in front of the fire the whole time the silver was being refined. And he answered that yes, he not only had to sit there holding the silver, but he had to keep his eye on the silver the entire time he was in the fire. If the silver was left even a moment too long in the flames, it would be destroyed. And the woman was silent for a moment, and she asked the silversmith, "How do you know when the silver is fully refined?" He looked at her and answered, "Oh, that's easy, when I see my image in it." Sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes I think I know about you actually a little bit. I feel like I'm sitting in that fire. Yes? We wonder when we're in that fire, when we're in that hot spot, when we're in the middle of that flame in the hardest times of our lives, we wonder, where's God? What happened to God in this? If God was here, this wouldn't be happening right now. And we feel we are abandoned. I'm not the only one who's felt that in my life, right? But as we affirm every Sunday in our prayer for protection, wherever we are, God is. And it's not just about wherever we are physically is where God is. Where we are emotionally, where we are spiritually, where we are in our love, where we are in our suffering, wherever we are, God is in our lives, wherever we are. Buddhist teacher Jack Kornfield describes the illusion of permanence. He says it's the illusion that we can hold on to this moment, this experience forever. So if we're in a good place in our lives, right, we're feeling like, oh, when we get up in the morning, we're feeling good, work is going good, families are going good, relationships are going good, that's always going to stay that way. Yet nothing about life is permanent. Our childhood's gone. The 1990s are gone. Last month, last year, yesterday, all gone. But with the delusion of permanence, we hold on to feelings and experiences and people as if they're going to last forever, as if they're ours to keep. There's a cartoon showing a Bedouin family on a camel traveling across the desert. The father is first on the largest camel, followed by the mother and the children. And the father turns his head to respond to one of the children. "Stop asking me if we're almost there. We're nomads, for crying out loud." We're never going to get there. right? We are all nomads. Every single one of us is a nomad in this life. We pretend that if we get this spiritual life right, that if we learn all the principles, that if we can recite all the principles, that if we pray and meditate every morning, and that if we say all the prayers right, that our bodies will stay young. Our children will not grow up. We'll never experience suffering. That's the delusion. Truth is, in life there are 10,000 joys and 10,000 sorrows. There is no escaping that. Has anybody escaped that yet? No. There are 10,000 joys and 10,000 sorrows. We forget that that life is praise and blame and gain and loss and pleasure and suffering. This is what life is. This is the human condition. And sometimes in it, we feel like we are being held in the fire. And then, maybe this is the same for you as it is for me sometimes, that I spend all my energy resisting the fire. Resisting it. I don't want to be purified, thank you very much. I don't want to be uncomfortable, thank you very much. Right? And yet, that's why we are here. Jesus didn't come. Wait, let me get this right. Jesus didn't come to comfort the afflicted. He came to afflict the comfortable. Take a second and think about what if that's true. But we're always holding on to wanting to be comfortable right where we are, wanting nothing to change, wanting not to suffer. Oh gosh, I don't want to suffer. So why are we here? What is our goal in life? What's our goal in this teaching, in this particular spiritual center? Well, our subtitle of our book by Richard Rohr is Learning to See How the Mystics See. It could have another subtitle, Learning to Live in Non-Duality, or Learning to Live in Oneness, or Recognizing Who We Truly Are and Acting Like It. That's what being a mystic is. It's recognizing who we truly are and then acting like it. Transformed people transform people. Would you agree with me that our whole goal is to be one in God? To have a total presence of the awareness of God in every single moment, to release any central notion that we are separate. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
This is what non-duality is, which is what this whole book is about. And so we're called to be open to transformation. And many, many, many times, transformation is uncomfortable. Richard Rohr writes, 2 universal and prime paths of transformation have been available to every human being since Adam and Eve in the Stone Age. Great love and great suffering. These are offered to all. They level the playing fields of all religions. Only love and suffering are strong enough to break down our usual ego defenses, crush our dualistic thinking, and open us up to the mystery. Now, if you've been around Unity a while, you know that we practice positive spirituality, right? So as I'm talking about suffering, you may be thinking about, wait, this isn't what Unity is about. Unity isn't about suffering. Unity is about moving past all suffering and being happy all the time. So, how's that working for you? Right? And that's not really what Unity is about. For me, the Unity teaching is about, the spiritual teaching is about learning how to be peaceful in it all. No matter what comes at us, no matter what our learning journey is, to be peaceful in it all. What I call being a spiritual warrior. Being peaceful in it all. So great love and great suffering are the doorways, Richard Rohr says, to the transformation. So let's look at love for a moment. We often think that we have to experience love all the time. We have to be loving all the time, or we're not doing it right. I think sometimes, maybe you think sometimes, if I'm doing this work right, I will always feel loving. I will never be resentful, never be angry, never be petty. That's That's not how it works, right? Well, how it works is that if we're doing this work right, we become aware of when we're feeling those things that make us uncomfortable. We become aware. And just in that awareness, the transformation begins. In that awareness, we can activate compassion for ourselves. We can activate compassion for someone else. We can choose equanimity. We can choose to be poised in the face of it, even in great suffering. If we're angry or resistant or fearful, we're doing it wrong. And that's when we try to push away that, right? And how do we do that? One way we push away fear or push away suffering or anger is to deny that it's there. Oh, if I don't think about it, I'll just sweep it under the rug, I'll pretend it's not really happening. And the second way is to start justifying. Right? We get into trying to justify the situation. That feeds us into this wonderful opportunity to blame someone else. To blame someone else or to blame the circumstances. If only they were different, my suffering would disappear. The teaching is we become aware of our suffering. And we become open to allowing Spirit to move through us as the refiner of silver. That's when the transformation happens. Richard Rohr says, great suffering opens you in a different way. Here things happen against your will, which is what makes it suffering. And over time, you can learn to give up your defended state again because you have no choice. The situation is what it is. Although we will invariably go through the stages of denial, anger, bargaining, resignation, and hopefully on to acceptance. The suffering might feel wrong, terminal, absurd, unjust, impossible, physically painful, or just outside of your comfort zone. So you see why we must have a proper attitude towards suffering, because many things every day leave us out of control, even if it's just a long stoplight. Remember always, however, he says, that if you do not transform your pain, you will surely transmit it to those around you, and even to the next generation. Yeah, I hear you. We are called to transform our pain so we don't transmit it. Truth is, in my life, maybe in yours, that the places where we are suffering is where we have the opportunity to make the greatest breakthroughs and where we experience Spirit working in our lives. We can discover that when we're suffering, when we're feeling separated, we can intentionally move back into the presence and power of God. This is where the affirmation and the prayer and my new favorite mantra, this too shall pass. Because guess what? It always does. It always does. This too shall pass. This is where soul growth happens. When we stay there in the fire to get the gift of the fire. That's where soul growth happens. Jesus was very keen. Jesus was very keen on saying, wake up! Wake up, be awake! And that's what this place of fear, of suffering is. It's an opportunity for us to wake up. And the good news is we are brilliantly designed to heal ourselves and return to wholeness. We carry it with us. We carry enlightenment with us. Even when we come up against our fears. And when we do come up against our fears, some of us have a habit of continually putting up walls to shield us, right? To shield us. We have opinions, we have prejudices, we have strategies, we have barriers that we think protect us from being hurt and from suffering. But we all have cracks, right? Who said that? Everything has a crack in it, and that's where the light gets in. So we all have this soft spot this place of enlightenment that is always open and ready and available for Spirit to come in when we recognize it. And when we commit to that, when we commit to letting Spirit in, we can learn to seize that moment when we're at our most uncomfortable, to awaken our innate ability to love, our innate ability for compassion. Our master teacher, Jesus, tells us that we are one with the one. And he said it this way, the Father and I are one. He wasn't kidding around, folks. He wasn't kidding around when he said that I and the Father are one. And not only for him, but for us too. I and the Father are one. I and the Mother are one. That's who we are. That's the promise given in the teachings. And so we are called to just be open, open, open to that. Continually opening the door to oneness. Every time when we feel most stuck, when we are suffering, we are never alienated from the awakened state. Never, never, never. This is big. Think about it for a second. This is big. Even ordinary people who screw up, who make mistakes, who say the wrong things or do the wrong things sometimes, even us, even me, even you, are never separated from that enlightened state, no matter what we've done, no matter where we've been. It is right here. It is right here in that soft spot that we all have when life comes in. What I have come to know is that the central question of our training as truth students, as spiritual warriors, is not how we avoid suffering. If we go there, we'll just get crazy. So that's not the question to ask. How do we avoid suffering? The question to ask is, how do we practice our spiritual truth when we are in the midst of our emotions, when we are in the midst of challenges, when we are in the frustrations of an ordinary day? How do we practice? That's the central question. That's the central question we need to ask ourselves in this spiritual teaching. How to keep our hearts and our minds open when we just want to shut down, when we want to blame, when we want to run away. So we practice. We practice meditation. We practice loving kindness. We practice compassion. We practice staying awake and aware of what's going on within us. And when we do that, we access our holy wisdom. I don't know about you, but when I'm feeling triggered by anything, I can't access anything, right? I can't really understand what you're saying. I kind of go within, my brain kind of just like, the amygdala, the animal, the reptilian brain takes over, right? And it's all just fight or flight. So the practice is what? We breathe. When we become awake and aware that that is happening, okay, Spirit, here I am. First step. First step. Open up that soft spot, open up that crack, and allow the light in. So some other steps. To save yourself. Right? Because sometimes we're like the bird in the nest, right? Who doesn't want to jump out, doesn't want to fly, so he stays in that stinky nest because he doesn't want to take the risk to fly out. Right? So we need to take that step. We need to take that step and fly out. Because the mother bird's not coming back. The mother bird's not going to save us. The mother bird's not going to bring us food. We need to save ourselves. So when we're fearful or suffering, first thing is to acknowledge it. Don't try to push it away. Second, look it in the eye and identify it. What is this? Right? Does it happen for you? It happens for me. I get this feeling in my stomach. Right? I get a physical feeling of something's not right. Right? I identify that as suffering. Well, what is it? Let me identify that. Let me put a name to it. And be open to what it is showing me. Acknowledge it. Look it in the eye. And identify it. And then third is to accept it and start telling on it. So, you know what's telling on it, right? Tattling to somebody on it. Man, I've actually gotten pretty good at this over the last few months, haven't I? My prayer partner's in the front row. Tell on it. Tell a trusted friend, tell a prayer partner, tell a therapist, tell a counselor. This is what's going on for me. I'm suffering about this. I'm fearful about this. It's like when I had little kids and they had bad dreams and they would say, oh, I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it out loud. That's what takes the power out of it. When we say it out loud, it takes the power out of it. So, acknowledge it, look it in the eye and identify it, and then tell on it. Speak it out to somebody you trust. And then, just in those things, Christ consciousness gets permission to come in and work. Spirit gets permission to come in and work when we are no longer trying to run away from where we are suffering. So don't deny them. Let Spirit in to deal with them. Just like Jesus. We are one with the one. We have access to the light, to the power, to meet our sorrow, our lack, our failure, and to rise above them and to move through them. And our willingness to do these things, to take these steps, to use the power of the Christ consciousness will determine our movement. So as we go through this next week, when you feel fear or resistance or anger, or you feel like you are suffering, when you feel like you are being held in the fire, I invite you to stop. I invite you to breathe. I invite you to identify it, to look at it, to be fearless and courageous, to not try to run away, and then to use Christ's consciousness